if I incorporate volume, we'll look at it. We can move on, but we'll look at it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Yes, fine. How about you, Patrick? You on mute, Patrick?
Let's see. Where do I begin? I'm still trying to incorporate this stuff into my trading, and so I have a question here. So I've been trying to match up these trading signals with technical stuff. So, for example, if I scan my watch list, the second thing that pops up is a bullish retrace on XLI. And that's on the daily time frame.
Okay.
So I think I'm having trouble looking at this chart, trying to figure out what to do next with this thing. So if I look at this, do you have the chart? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just popped it up.
All right. So if you see this, oh.
Yeah, so if you do see it now, I just have it set up so that it's on the full page on the daily. So, Patrick, I assume that this was the signal. Was this today's signal or was it yesterday's signal?
This is as of a few minutes ago, today.
Yes, so today's signal. Okay, so I assume what it's talking about, just so that you know, what it's doing is saying anytime there's a retrace, and in this case there's a swing point high, where I've kind of put the cursor now, which is on March 19th. And that will trigger once it's within an ATR of that swing point high. And I believe it's the close of that day, which was this. I don't have today's price. This is yesterday's, which is what that trading signal would have been based on. And so that's why it's triggering, right? And it's simply saying, oh, this thing's getting close to this. Now, had you have looked at it the day before, you would have seen one also, because the day before, which was the close of business April 8th, that one was coming back into the swing point high back on March 5th. So there was a bullish retest regen there as well, right? A retrace. So both of those things. Okay. So then the question is, okay, what does it tell me, right? Well, then we have to go to our rule. If we retrace within 6 bars, the odds of us holding on that retrace and regenerating, or depending on what it is, it's 62% or something, right? Some different number. This was a bullish breakout confirmed, so I think it's higher. It's around 70, I believe. And so it should try to retrace. I mean, it should try to regenerate. So that's one thing we know, right? We also can see that it's coming back with lighter volume. So that just gives us kind of the odds of what could or couldn't happen. Now, it did. At the same time, it did fail. You got to look at the whole thing, right? It did fail at the top, 77 1/4, and that swing point high was 77.13. So the swing point high from February 25th, got over it on April 5th, less volume, and got back under it and closed under it, right? Which is a test failure. Test failure tells us we should expect a retrace, and we may or may not test again. And so that retrace that started to take place kind of made sense, right, on the test failure, and now we should expect it to try and hold in this area. Now, I don't know if it held today or not.
Well, it did.
I know
it went greater than 6 bars, and it went into the swing point high and bounced right off of it, just like it's supposed to.
Okay. So the odds are is that they should try and hold and should try and regenerate. Now, the test failure makes me a little wary, right, on the regeneration attempt. In other words, it's doing his bounce now, or trying to do the bounce today. But because I have a test failure up there, I would be less likely to want to be bullish on this particular chart. And I probably would be less likely to be on this chart as well for other reasons, like the volume tails back here on March, what is it, 4th, 5th, and 6th, where it came down. And so if I were looking at this one looks much more like those range trades that we've talked about, maybe potentially setting up, right, this particular sector. Just because you have the test failure, you have the volume tails over here on the decline to start with, but yet you have the swing point highs, not only the one it's testing now, but the one below it, that if it hits that one, which Matt said it did today, right, more than likely that one really should try and bounce it. So,
well, but it had more volume on the test today.
It did have more volume, so that's a small negative. So again, you just have to look at all those things, and then the question is all those things just give you odds of what may happen next, right? So when I look at something like that, and we're only looking at this sector, we've also got broader things like a very strong general market, and which influences this sector as well. So in other words, it pulls this sector higher. So that's a positive bullish bias underneath all this. And so, you take all that stuff, right? You have to be biased to the upside, but it looks like this one is going to struggle for a while and probably try to range trade for a while. That would be how I try to read this chart.
Isn't that what you want, Patrick? To kind of have an in-between struggle sideways?
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever happened with that other one, Patrick? I know we talked about, what was that airline? Love, was it? LUV? What happened with that guy?
That worked out.
I remember we looked at this one.
That one retraced back.
Was it on the
into
weekly or the
50 area.
daily? Was it on the weekly or the daily we were looking at time?
I think that was the weekly.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so let me switch this real quick, just out of curiosity. 'Cause I know we were looking at. Yeah, that looks more like what we looked at. Yeah, but damn, it did almost what we talked about, right? Because we were talking about these two bars on the October 29th and what is that, 29 and 22nd, that overlap area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it came right into it, didn't it? Yeah. How lucky we got there, huh?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just the hard thing is that you have to just do it over and over and over again, right? And look at what happens each time. Now, we only looked on the daily, right? I pull up the weekly on XLI to see what it looks like. And so here on the XLI on the weekly is a little bit different of a story. You have two things that stand out. Now, the first thing I always do when I look at a chart is I ask myself, what stands out on this chart? You know what I mean? Where is my attention? Where is my attention drawn to immediately, right? And the bar I see immediately on this chart when I pop it up is 10th of October last year. All right, big breakdown bar, high volume, wide price spread. That's a big important bar. So now we come back up, right, after that, strong grind higher like everything else did, and we get up into that area, and lo and behold, there's resistance, right, which makes sense. You would think that anyone that had bought from as far back as I can see on this chart has been in a losing position until now, right after October. So what are they naturally going to do? Well, everybody wants to get out for nothing, so they all sell, or a large percentage of them do. And so, I think the grind that's taking place here is a function of those that were underwater wanting to get their money back, and they're happy to get it back and move somewhere else. And I think that's what's happening. The volumes seem to suggest that as well. Here you got a little bit different story on what we just said on the daily. That February 25th bar has lighter volume than it got hit with on April 1st. And so it's testing that top at 77.13. Yeah, and the one next to it is 10. So it did test it with a little bit more volume compared to the actual top, but it wasn't a swing point. So, I don't put as much importance on it, but it does tell me, hey, there was a little bit more desire to buy or sell there at that point. So, this to me just looks like a range for a while before it tries to continue and attack that top and try to get over at 79.20. So my bias would be to the upside, and my intermediate, next few weeks kind of thing is probably this thing grinds. Now, it does have a swing point high, has a very long bar here, in terms of the retest. So right now, the way it's retesting is very bullish. In other words, it's not coming as deep as it should. But I think that's more of a function of a general market being so strong, not so much this sector. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And so that's the way I just try to look at the chart, and I try to look at the things I know and the things I see, and then ask myself, what does it tell me? And if you do that enough, you'll start to, because what you're really asking yourself is, what is the market telling me, right? That's what you want to know is, based on what you see, what is the market really trying to tell you? And right now, this one just seems like it just wants to grind for a bit longer. The other thing I always do when I look at something like this, and I'm going to pull up my presentation manager here. So the other thing I like to do when I look at something like this is ask myself not only what I think it's doing, but what would tell me something different, right? So for example, the low here is what's offering the support, right? That big bar that drew my attention, to start with. That's the guy that is giving it the support right at that price point on that test of that swing point high. The other cap of it is this one over here. So that's my range, right? So this here is your range to work with. And so your middle of the range is about where it is. And so again, I can look at all this and I could say, hey, you know what? If it trades down to this area and closes under it, it's probably going to go after this bottom third, right? Down here somewhere. So I would know where my risk factors are, right? If it gets over this, then it's definitely going to attack this high and probably go higher. So it's going to be up there somewhere, right, before it even retraces. And so I can start, to form boundaries that I can use to tell myself, even if I'm going to play this little range, anything above here that closes above that trade I was playing on a range trade is dead. And then I got to find my way back out of it, or assume the risk up to here and assume the risk down to there, right? And that may be some alternate trade you put on to adapt the original trade once the range expands on you, or you just pull it, right? I don't know how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the bias upside, and that's because the bias is upside on almost everything right now. General market's forcing that. Okay, that was good. How about Edward? Oh, okay. So let me see what these are, and then let's attack that. And then Edward, you can. I don't know. Did y'all look at Edward? Did you look to see what you thought of the? Where did you put the stocks, Edward? Oh, there they are. Okay. What do you think about the quality of that video? I used the thing to improve the quality some. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was okay. That's what I thought. All right. Let me get rid of these two that we were just talking about, and then let me pop to the other ones. We'll start with this TSCO. So here's three stocks. We'll start with this one. This one's extremely strong. Tractor Supply Company. This is a company I've looked at many years, off and on. They've been a very strong retail company. When I travel around the Midwest, I see them everywhere. The tops of this, if we look at it, it broke out last month on all time frames, and so everything broke out to the top side. And so on a stock like this, you can do one of two things. Now, this is one of the scenarios where you say, okay, is there anything that could stop it? Well, you don't really have anything. And when I see that, unless sector, I didn't look at the sector here.
It's
Sector
XLY.
sector doesn't look bad either.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I picked it, because it's the.
So, so I, this is one of those where you can just buy it, right? And you buy some chunk of it with the expectation that you buy more on the retrace if it happens. Because these are the kinds of stocks that may not come back, all right? This is one of those rare cases where you can actually just buy. And usually what I do on something like this is buy, 40% of what I want or something, and then be willing to buy more if it comes back. If it keeps going, and eventually it's going to retrace, and that's when I buy the rest of it.
Okay.
But there's absolutely nothing wrong with this stock.
Yeah, I was gonna look at buying a retrace using the March 29 daily bar. It's a wide price, high volume on the daily. And if it got like within a 50% ATR, that I was going to buy it there, which is also the swing point high area where you would look at right there. Yeah. I mean, because the swing point high is kind of small and it's already tested into it, pretty good. So, yeah.
The only thing, if you think about it the other way, the only thing is that, well, it could get away from you, but also remember, if it comes back here, it's second test.
Yeah, it is. That's true. That's true. But I was thinking that support bar was pretty strong. So, yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's almost like you don't want it to come back here.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of don't want it to come back in this area. It
broke out. It's already extended 2 bars on the weekly, which it goes 2 to 3 bars on the multiple breakout. And then the monthly, though, it broke out too. So if it goes 2 to 3 bars, now you've got, 2
to 3 months.
Yeah. So you're right. I like the 40% buying here. And because you got a little bit of a weird can. You don't have it on here, but I don't know what you call these candles, but it has a kind of a long tail and a flat body, like my mother.
Yeah, well, that's the that's the reverse. That's the reversal candle, right? That's the twilight. That's the twilight of the move, supposedly.
Everything we say stays here.
It can pull back. The other thing that you could note here, and this just has to do with numerology, right? But it's over par, $100. A lot of times people will buy par. And so this thing may pull back into like 99.60 or something, and then they jump on it again. So you might keep that in mind. A lot of times that just works that way, and it has nothing to do with any kind of anything other than the people are suspicious about various numbers. Or they're not suspicious, but what is that where you believe in stuff?
I'm going to find your mom and tell her you said that about her.
No.
I'm going to find Matt's mom.
What stays in mentor room? Or no, what's said in mentor room?
This is not Vegas, babe.
So anyway, that's a good looking chart, and it's one of the ones that when it breaks out like that and it breaks out everywhere, you just have to try to step into it. Unless there's something to stop it, right? And then you buy a piece of it and move on.
Well, see what I noticed about
is another.
I'm sorry, I was going to say last thing about that. When I see no overhead resistance at all on any of the 3 charts, you're right. What's going to stop it? I mean, earnings are in May, like late May. So anyway, thanks.
Sure. Okay, Twilio. This is one we have worked before, and
this is my beach house stock. This stock is so flippin' strong. Yeah, it's a retirement. It is. This stock is gangbusters. And Acacia is the other one. If you do a twofer on those, you can get side-by-side beach houses. And Matt, your mother can come visit. How's that?
Yes.
She can flop her bottom down on a beach chair.
That's right.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So get ready, Twilio and Acacia. Oh, we got to add a couple of tickers. I think I told Patrick today. I think Lyft is putting in a double bottom. I gotta see the volume dry up on the selling. Don't get me wrong. it made new lows today. But if you look at it, you guys know about Lyft, right? It's the IPO that just happened. Yeah, so it was trading okay for a little bit, and now it's making new lows. But I gotta say, if it recovers from here by the end of the week, I'm in. We'll see.
But it came down hard today on a lot of volume. So
yeah, it did. I need that volume to stop. I need some buyers, so I'm watching it. But that should hit 78, and that's a nice trade from where it is now to 78. So I'm just looking. And plus Uber's, on the trail. But everybody says that Lyft is a cash cow and that the revenues are strong. So I can't find any earnings information on it. I've already been in and out of it and made some money when it was selling off. But now I'm looking to see when it's going to signal an entry. Okay, Twilio. Sorry about that.
It's fine. I'm going to go back to this. So the overlap area is here for now, right? I pulled to the daily because I don't see much on the weekly that makes sense to look at. It'd have to pull back a long way there. The overlap of these two is in this area. These are the things that draw my attention. If I did an ABCD down, I don't think that it's that much farther to go. If it's not, it looks like it's already done. There's potentially one forming here off of this one, right? That would be, I don't know. Was it up today? I don't even, do I have today? Let me see what I have on here.
It should have been up today. I got it.
Yeah, this is today's. Yeah, so it was up today.
Yeah. I'm not in it right now. I got to see. I think it'll ramp ahead of earnings, but we'll see. I like Acacia right now a lot. I'm overweighting that.
Well, I don't know. The only thing I see on this chart, and again, these are like momentum stocks, right? So a lot of times they'll push, and then all of a sudden something will hit, whether it's, some piece of information or just a panic out of nowhere, and you'll get a big, not big, but sometimes a larger spike in volume, which is what you see on these big days down, right? All these big days down. It doesn't necessarily mean that this thing's crumbling. It's just that people, for whatever reason, panicked on that day. I assume this guy has a high short interest as well. A lot of times, short covering takes place on those kind of days as well, as as it finally they get back in their money and they come in and buy it. This one looks like it's actually going to try. Not a short interest.
Pulled up a yearly chart here. We're talking about $40 a year ago to the date. And it's tripled. So, we have to talk about this as well and keeping on our winners and riding these things, because that's why I'm joking about the beach house. But you get it. This is triple your money in 1 year, guys.
No. All I was saying to start with here is that there's nothing on these charts that look that negative that I would even try and trade for a retrace. I don't even see a place to retrace it. Maybe you're looking at this big bar of February 11th as a retrace spot. That's why I went to the daily.
Oh, I'm looking at the weekly. Yeah, you're right, but that's kind of what I like about it is it's a chugger, and that's why I don't think it's a momentum stock. I think this is as steady as she goes.
So is it short float or short ratio?
Short ratio.
1.99 on Twilio.
And so it's not much at all. So anyway, they have these kind of spike downs, right? Yeah, they've happened before. Volume expands some. For whatever reason, right, that just tells me that this is kind of a crowded trade and everybody gets scared and jumps out because it goes right back up, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
That's what's happened each time. So, you're on a stock like this, no matter what's driving it, whether it's momentum or whatever, a stock like this, I like to catch the retraces to try and buy them if I'm going to buy this stock. And so... is this the spot, or is the spot actually going to be this little overlap down here on one more ABCD down? I think that depends on the general market, because that ABCD down would take it right into about 114, it looks like, 115. That might be the ideal spot, which probably is into this bar. 119, and that low there is 110. So that's kind of a good spot. Somewhere around 115, 115, I would guess. I don't know if it'll get there. This is the kind of stock that may just take off tomorrow. Let's see, the last one, Lilly, which is drug company. Let's see what they look like.
Big pharma. When you're hot, Edward.
Huh. And you would be going long, I assume? I don't know, man. This is a messy chart. I don't know what to think about this chart. It just looks like a range, so you're about halfway in the range. The range I would take would be this little thing you see over here, which is pretty much this thing, right? And you're about halfway into it, so I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what the heck all this is. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was going on. There was like all this interest at the beginning of March, and now there's no interest. So I really don't know what to think about this chart. I don't have a strong opinion at all. And when I don't have a strong opinion, I just quit looking. I go somewhere else. So. Which one would lift, Jen? Is that what it was? What is their symbol?
It's the double bottom, but LYFT. But the other one that I really like is Halo.
HALO?
That's about, yeah, Halo, like an angel halo. That's about to take off.
So let me look at lift first, and then we'll look at the last one. So, oh yeah, I can tell a lot on these two charts.
It's an IPO. It's like last week.
I assume double bottom. What does double bottom mean? Where's your double bottom?
It's a W shape, and you see the W, the white, the second candle in, and then so you're coming down in a W, but you want the right side to be lower than the left, which it is. It looks more funky on your chart because it's so massively spread out, but yeah. Well, you want the right to be lower, but it's a little bit lower. So, like I said, if the volume has to dissipate and it's got to lift, lift's got to lift.
We're gonna have to chip in and send her some glasses. Let me go to Halo.
I have to sell one of my beach houses now. That's going to do me in.
All right. So what we got on Halo? So Halo's your double bottom you were talking about.
That is a double bottom, but it's better looking double bottom. But it also has a golden cross today.
So this one's more interesting. So here you have a test failure at the lows, right, and then you take off. So the volume's compared, right? Less volume. That's a test failure to get lower. So that gives you some sort of indication it's going to try and head back the other way. It also turns out to be kind of a hammer reversal. And man, it did almost everything you want. I'm going to blow this chart up so we can look at it a little bit more closely. So everything you talk about in this kind of chart kind of happened the way it was supposed to, right? First of all, you got the test failure here. It's a hammer reversal, and your ideal entry point's there. It gave you everything, right? And then it takes off. Test at the top of the breakdown bar keeps on going.
Told you, Patrick.
And then we get up to here, and so the top of this breakdown was there, and so it's chewing through whatever that supply that built up here when this thing gave it up. Now it's not huge because you didn't have huge supply back here. Although I guess I could look to see if guys are playing with each other. I guess I could look to see on a weekly out of curiosity. Let me see what that one. Yeah, you did have a lot of supply, right? So all the people that got trapped on the weekly back here are selling into this push back up, right? And so the first push back up. So you're coming back into a swing point low on the weekly. It's about there. So this guy, top of that is 1850, going back to here now. Yeah, I think this thing's probably, I think it's going to attack the top, it may go sideways a little bit longer, may even retrace a little bit more. You got a swing point high. It's testing back into already. So let me clean it up and go from here now. So this is your bullish retest regen. That's taking place right now. You got this swing point high it wants to go after if it can get up farther. I don't particularly like the volume flows. They don't add, they don't particularly subtract, but they don't give me anything extremely negative. And I think the big thing is 1776, which is what it's dealing with now. If it gets over this, right, it's going to be a pretty good shot up. I would think you can get back to 19 before it's over. Probably the top of this bar, 1885. That's also going to be a full retest regen off these other swing point lows on the weekly. So yeah, this looks like it has some possibilities.
The couple trade with that, because I do twofers, is AFA's back in action, and it has a 30-minute ABCD that goes right back to that 1095, which you might remember I posted this trade and I didn't stop out yet, but that also has a golden cross set up, Halo and AFA. So I think something's happening in this pot space, and I think AFA's APHA is about to jump too.
And are they both the same biotech type?
No, AFA's a pot stock, and Halo is, I don't know, some kind of blood therapy or something.
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like blood something. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
anyway,
guys, I'm gonna call it a night. That was good.
Take care of yourself.
Let's get together again next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the trade talks in particular, and I also like, my big thing as a mentor is looking at a chart and finding the most important and most valuable information from it. I think that would help both Edward, who's not posting, and Patrick, who is posting, feel good about their trades and their timelines, and even a shorter term test of a support area or something would be a good call. Like Boeing, for instance, I think Boeing's going to test the lows. So just things like that. You have a theory, you put it on the chart, you see it.
Yeah, let me see. Did Boeing actually
It broke support
print already?
today. I think it.
I was looking at this
I didn't
one
look at
today.
that. You did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been,
And so no,
And I
actually, it did another test failure at the lows. 363336. Yep, test failure at the lows. This looks like a buy.
well,
I'm
it's
gonna
either
buy
a buy or if it breaks from here, it's going. Is it? Where's the December low? Is that what it's testing now, or is it already?
No, it's testing the March lows. I'm on the daily.
Okay.
Yeah, this looks like. As a matter of fact, this was one of the first things we looked at that I posted, that I bought this, pullback. I think we were 3 days into the pullback when I was talking back then about the trade back to this area. I think y'all remember probably.
Mm-hmm.
So this area here, it almost got to it, and then eventually farther up, right? But this was the first place you'd look for it to trade back to, and it almost got there. But these are tough trades, right? Because if you don't take the money here, you're right back where you started.
Yeah.
So this is a better. This is actually, to finish this thought, this is actually a better trade now if it holds, because it's a test failure of a swing point low, lot less volume, right? And it's already shown, the desire for people to come back into it. Now, this is like, for example, if you go back and look like a year and a half, 2 years ago with Equifax, this is that kind of trade, right? Where you get a huge news piece. In the Equifax case, it was a loss of a bunch of data. Here, it's a loss of life in a crash, potentially some liability, even criminal liability potentially, right? And so this is a big thing. It will take time for this thing to recover, but more than likely, eventually this thing just goes back up again. So
yeah, look at Chipotle if anybody really wants to learn.
There's another good example, right?
If you do that at the lows, you are a very wealthy person.
Yeah, that thing's like doubles.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
All right, have a good one, LA. Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Hey, Edward, stay on for a sec.